Thursday, 15th February 2024 be adopted. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we adopt and approve the votes and proceedings of the 15th day of February 2024, Thursday. Those in support of the motion as moved and seconded say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any petition? No petition. Yes, point of order, my brother Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Aminu Abbas, representing Adamawa Central District. Mr. President, I want to move a point of order 41 and 51. And I read. Matter of urgent public importance. The matter for discussion shall first, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is certified that the matter is definite and urgent. Sub 2, if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate, the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of the senators, and the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. A senator, that's sub 3, a senator moving the motion under combined order 41 and 51 shall ensure that copies of the motions are available for all senators when approval to move the motion is granted. Mr. President, this matter is on the planned increase of electricity tariff and the current arbitrary billing practices by the electricity distribution companies on metered customers. And currently, with the mood of the nation, Mr. President, if allowed, I will present the motion next legislative day. That's tomorrow.
Distinguished colleagues, the distinguished brother had approached me on this motion on the possible hike in electricity bills across Nigeria, and is coming to us under Order 41-2, which says that if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is also given by at least 1/5 of all the senators, the matter shall stand over to the next legislative day. Is it the view of the Senate that this claim be allowed? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may present it tomorrow. Yes, Olarele.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Olalero Yewumi. I represent the people of Osun West Senatorial District in Osun State. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 41 and 51 to present my point of order. The Order 51 says the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. And 51, says notice shall be dispensed with in the case of a motion on respect of any proceeding for which the notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and general assent of the senators present. If permitted, sir.
Yes, so summarize, what is the motion about?
The motion is on the issue of Ukraine that have been on ground for the past 3 years. The students that graduated from Ukraine have been disallowed by the Nigerian Council of Medical and Dental regulatory body in Nigeria to participate in the regulatory exam. This matter started since 9th Senate. It has gone to the committee, they have passed resolutions. It has gone to the new Minister of Health. They've also passed resolution. But up till now, the council has...
Okay, really, distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senator Larry had mentioned this issue to me as something very urgent that touches on the life of future generations of Nigerians. And I felt it was definite and urgent that he brings it up. Those who are in support, that he should do so, can you say aye? Those again say nay. The ayes have it. So you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my very distinguished colleagues. The motion is on discrimination against the medical graduates from Ukraine by Nigeria Medical and Dental Council. The Senate is aware that the issue of medical graduates from Ukraine universities have drawn the attention of the National Assembly since 2022. In 2023, the House of Representatives and the Ministry of Health concluded with the Medical and Dental Council to allow the students that graduated from the medical school in Ukraine to participate in the qualifying exam like other students, or at best, organize a makeup program for them before the exam. The Senate further note that the Medical and Dental Council has slated a referral program for the 2022 graduates to be done in Gwagwalada for all the students that will take the exam in July. The Senate is concerned that the parents of the affected students visited the National Assembly complex to lodge their complaint during our vacation for the extension of deadline for the payment for 1 month instead of half a week. The Senate is also confirmed that the war in Ukraine only affected the eastern part of Ukraine, which has the boundary with Russia, and Kyiv, the capital, and that the western Ukraine were not affected, and that the students were in campus doing their program unhindered, as confirmed by the Ukraine ambassador to Nigeria. And finally, concerned that since the war in Ukraine did not affect all the universities, especially those on the western part of Ukraine, students who graduated from those universities in 2023 should be allowed to sit for MDCN exam henceforth without any instance. Before I go to the prayer, sir, I want to say that the president of the country has solved this problem to about 75%, because the management of the council, MDCN, has been changed last week. The director general has been changed and replaced with a woman, and within the last 2 weeks, most of number 1 and number 2 of these prayers have been answered. The money they are supposed to pay in 1.5 weeks has been extended to 1 month. And the program, the referral program organized for only 2022 students have been extended to other students. So prayer 1 and 2 are no more necessary. Prayer 3 is the only one that I'm presenting to the Senate for consideration now. That is, urge the council to allow all students who graduated from Ukraine 2023, especially where the war did not affect the university activities, to sit for the MDCN exams coming up in July and November without any discrimination. The final one is to urge the council to also, in no distant time, work toward the conduct of the MDCN exam in the 6th geopolitical zone, as it is done in the law school and other professional exams, instead of bringing all students all over the country into one center, which will increase the cost and inconvenience the students more. So these are the 2 prayers, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Distinguished Senator Aliru.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Muhammad Adam Aliru. I represent KB Central. Mr. President, I rise to second this very good motion ably moved by the minority whip. And with your permission, Mr. President, I want to contribute to the debate. It is true that Ukraine was seriously affected. Medical students could not continue with their studies. They had to abandon their studies and come back home. And that has made it impossible In addition to Ukraine, Mr. President, there are also students that graduated from Sudan. We all know that Sudan was seriously affected by the military hostility between the two warring factions, each trying to control the country. As a result of that, many Nigerian students that were studying in Sudan got stranded. Some even graduated, but they couldn't get their prescribed certification. Some are in level 200, some 300. And right now, quite a number of them have been absorbed in Nigerian universities and they're continuing their studies. But those that have graduated are also having the same problem with those that came from Sudan. So I will want to suggest that instead of seeing students that graduated from Ukraine, we should also add Sudan in the additional prayer. Or, sorry, to amend the prayer. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Abamoro.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to lend my voice to this motion. It's germane and is in accordance with our desire to protect Nigerians that are disadvantaged. Mr. President, I want to think that the evidence of graduation from a university is certificate. And for those students who had graduated and come back with their certificates, there is no reason to prevent them from taking the qualifying examination to be able to practice in Nigeria. We are not unmindful, Mr. President, that the parents of these students definitely would have spent some fortunes to train them, and they have come to Nigeria, their own country, and they are discriminated against because of the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine certainly is not affecting all activities of life in Ukraine. There are certain parts, therefore, that are not affected by this war, and the students diligently went through academic programs, wrote their examinations, and got certificates, and have come back to Nigeria. I think this Senate should resolve that these persons who have graduated and have come home with their certificates should be allowed to sit for their qualifying examinations in July. I so support, Mr. President.
Senator Izunaso.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Osita Izunaso. I represent Imo West. Mr. President, this motion is very straightforward. I don't think that is a motion that we're going to waste too much time on, in the sense that all the students that graduated from Ukraine in 2022-2023, particularly those in their final years, when they return back to Nigeria, they also were asked to go to various other medical institutions in Nigeria to do their clinicals. And they did their clinicals in certified medical colleges in Nigeria, and they certified them fit for them to write the exam for MDCN. So, Mr. President, it would be unfortunate for us to deny them that opportunity for a problem that they did not cause by themselves, and all that they were asked to do, they have done it. So I want to urge that this Senate should look at the prayers number 3 and number 4 and approve accordingly. Mr. President, I'm aware that Ukrainian ambassador to Nigeria has sought audience to see you through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm sure that they are still processing the application for the ambassador to see you, because I have had discussions with the ambassador on this subject matter. And the government of Ukraine is 100% in support of those students to complete their academic exercise in Nigeria. So, Mr. President, I will urge my distinguished colleagues to support this motion to enable these students not to be affected by something that they have already corrected. I so second, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Monguno. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So
Mr. President of the Senate, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. My argument in support of this motion is to join Senator Adamu Alero in bringing to fore our students that were equally affected by this unfortunate incident of war in Sudan. Our students in Sudan, as a result of the war, were equally affected by what happened to our students in Ukraine. Mr. President, these students were in foreign land in search of knowledge because our medical colleges do not have the capacity to satisfy the thirst for medical learning. And that is why they went abroad in search of medical knowledge. Now, for no fault of theirs, there was war in Ukraine and in Sudan. So it behoves on the Nigerian authorities, particularly Medical and Dental Practitioners Council of Nigeria, to allow them sit for the requisite qualified examination in Nigeria so that they could have the ability to practice as a medical doctor in Nigeria, and also in satisfaction of their quest to achieve their ambition of becoming a medical doctor. So as representative of the people, we should not allow our constituents to suffer for something that is not their fault, and allow them to be qualified as a medical doctor in Nigeria. So I support the second leg of the motion that was introduced by Senator Adamu Alero to take into consideration the plight of our students that suffer similar fate in Sudan. Thank you.
the leader, distinguished Senator Danduse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Danduse Montaru Mohammed, representing Katsina South. This issue is very, very important to the development and progress of this country. Because if you look at it, the war affected most of these countries, Sudan and Ukraine. And these innocent citizens of ours had suffered a lot because some of them has been in Sudan or in Ukraine for 5 years. And most of these professional bodies, after even graduating, they will come to Nigeria and they will prostrate them for 5 to 6 years. Because in these medical and dental societies, I was so fortunate to be there last month when my daughter graduated. Out of 800 students, only 300 were able to qualify for that exams, and 500 are standing redundantly in their hometowns and in their villages, and they become a burden and constituted nuisance to the society of Nigeria because they have graduated from different parts of the world and they were denied to be a professional doctors after passing all the exams. Mr. President, this motion is timely and it needs to be investigated. And we are working towards most of the students, because I know as an uncommon transformer, we need to do that. In Sudan alone, we have more than 16,000 students who are affected from this war. And in Ukraine, I have made all the research, more than 10,000 students are there. So I think it is timely for this House to resolve to investigate on this very unfortunate situation. And it is happening anywhere in the world. most of these professional bodies are the ones that are becoming a problem, even in engineering sector, even in electrical sector, and in a medical sector. Somebody will graduate, and at the end of the day, he will be denied right to practice based on international standard, which is not happening in most of the countries of the world, but it is happening. This is why we have a lot of criminality in Nigeria and a lot of lack of doing business in a more holistic and honest approach. So I hope Mr. President will look into this so that it will be jointly investigated by the Committee of Health and Medical and even Engineering, because this is not only happening to medical sector, it is happening to all sectors of the economy. Most of these professionals, they just went to the Corporate Affairs Commission. They open a company and they dictate and determine what educational sector will be in Nigeria and in most of the people of the world. So I believe it is timely and it is very important, Mr. President. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to listen to a medical doctor amongst us. But in the meantime, I think as we are discussing, we should be mindful of the fact that we are talking about lives. The medical profession and the people we are churning out into our hospitals, we must remember, even though I'm a lawyer, and sometimes we say jokingly that the architect's mistake lies forever, but the doctor's mistake is buried underground. So we must be mindful of pushing thousands of students into the medical profession, half-baked. The result is that too many people may be buried underground. But that is not to say that the motion is not a good motion. Distinguished Senator Dr. Ismaila Dazo.
Mr. President, my name is Distinguished Senator Dr. Samaila Dahua Kaila. I represent Bauchi North. And I am not only a doctor, I am also a foreign graduate. I graduated in Bulgaria in 1988. And in supporting this motion, I want to say there is nothing new about assessment of students that graduate from foreign countries. We went through the same examination as far back as 1989. And we passed, and we went for our NYSC, and we worked, and we retired. Mr. President, it's not only Nigeria that is assessing foreign graduates. Any Nigerian that will work in UK, in the US, anywhere in the world, the first thing you will do is to pass their professional assessment. So I think to me, this motion is very simple. All we need to do is to get the MDCN to give these students opportunity to sit for these examinations and pass. But I will not support for us to bend the rules for them to pass, because as you rightly said, we are dealing with life, not with buildings. So any mistake will cost us lives. So my suggestion is, let us ask the MDCN to improve in their ability to conduct these assessments, and they must not bend the rules. I so submit.
Distinguished colleagues, what Distinguished Senator Ismaila has said simply brings two legs to the motion. The first is, we are talking about children who ran away from war-torn countries, such as Ukraine. So they may not necessarily arrive in Nigeria with certificates, because there was no time, the war did not allow them to obtain certificates. And then there are also others who have graduated from possibly the same Ukraine or Sudan or other war-torn areas that actually graduated and came with their certificates. I think those ones, there should not be any issue, because there must be an assessment. But for those who ran away and arrived in Nigeria and said, I was doing final year, I was doing third year, I was doing this, and they have nothing to back up, I think we should be able to, in the prayers, we should be able to differentiate between students with certificates in their hand, taking this examination, and those that came back and made claims that they concluded field year, 6th year, and whatever, and they're eligible to take the exams. So it's dicey. Those are the ones that I said, anybody can come back and say, I was doing final year, but when the war came, I could not conclude it. So, and then you say, okay, come and take the exam. And if he's a sharp person, he will pass the examination, and yet he doesn't know much. But so we should put it in two perspectives: those with qualifications and those without qualifications. They must be assessed differently. Olade, you want to give information? Remember that it is war that made them to run. And remember that some of them have no certificates in their hands.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. In fact, before I attempted to present this particular bill, I made a lot of effort. When the parents came here, when we are in recess, there are more than 50. Fortunately, they met me here, and they explained their concern, as we are explaining that some students waited where war did not affect the academic exercise, especially in the western part of Ukraine. They brought a lot of letters, even from those universities, that shows that in these places, academic exercise were going on and they are not affected. Those ones had graduated and they have received their certificate. And they said they visited the MDCN, they met the DG, and DG said no. So I went to the DG myself, and I met the DG, deputy DG, and the secretary, and I spoke to them. That time they said they used to have one remedial program before the exam, that they would not allow those who finished 2023 to attend the exam. I said no. They said they asked them to come and pay 1.5 million naira in 2 weeks. I said that is too short. You have to give them time, since you are just giving the notice now. He promised that time, and when I left, they increased the time to 1 month, and they have not expanded that exam to everybody. We are not talking of those who have no certificates, sir. We are talking of those who complete their exam there, their program, and have their certificate in their hand. And we are not, sir, we are mindful that health is different from any other profession. We are dealing with the life of the people, and we don't want to joke with anybody's life. We are not asking the MTN to bend rule for anybody. They should allow them to do their exam like any other student. They should be marked like any other student and be gauged. If those who pass should be given certificate, those who did not pass can take the exam again next year. That is just the prayer, sir. Not to corner anything. Just.
Thank you. I think now you have clarified, because I would have loved to ask you another question. That can you allow one of those students to treat you and your children if they had no certificate? But in fact, so we should go into the prayers. Otherwise, I will insist that one of them should be a daughter to your family. So that way you know whether they graduated or not. Let's go into the prayers. I said prayer 1 and 2 had been taken care of. To prayer 3, urge the council to allow all students who graduated from Ukraine in 2023 in 2023. Your amendment, yes. Distinguished Senator.
Mohammed Adamu, representing KB Central. Mr. President, in view of what we mentioned about Sudan, I want us to amend prayer 2 to include those that graduated in 2023 from Ukraine and Sudan. That's the amendment of the prayer. Okay. Okay. In order to make it all encompassing and all embracing, we should say those that graduated from Ukraine and other countries. Yes, those that graduated from Sudan and other countries.
Okay, so distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senator Odende.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Emmanuel Memgaudende.
No, but let me reiterate what the amendment is. It's saying that urge the council to allow all students who graduated from Ukraine in 2023 and other countries with certificates, then so that you know.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand to second the motion. Assembly moved by Senator Alero. I say second.
The distinguished colleagues, prayer 3 has been amended and seconded by Senator Odende to read, urge the council to allow all students who graduated from Ukraine in 2023 and other countries affected by war with certificates, especially where the war did not affect the university activities, to sit for the MDCN exams coming up in July and November 2024 without any discrimination. Clark, I hope you got the amendment. Those in support of prayer 3 as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, urge the council to, in the no distant time, work towards the conduct of the MDCN exams in each geopolitical zones of the country, like the law schools, to reduce the costs on the students and their parents. Those in support of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Additional prayer, yes, of us.
President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Aminu Abbas, Senator representing Adamawa Central. Mr. President, in line to the comment you made, the last comment you made, for those that are not graduates, I want to add a prayer to urge the Committee of Vice Chancellors to give those an opportunity to be absorbed in Nigerian University to complete their studies. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any seconder? Yes. Distinguished Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Muhammad Adamalero. I rise to second the additional prayer proposed by my colleague, Senator Aminu Abbas, that the Committee of Vice Chancellors should allow those that are coming back from war-torn countries to be admitted into Nigerian University to complete their studies.
Distinguished colleagues, this is very straightforward. The additional prayer is that we should urge the Committee of Vice Chancellors to allow Nigerian students, whether in medicine or other courses, coming from war-torn countries to be admitted to complete their studies. Those in support of the additional prayer say aye, and those against say nay. Let me put the question again. The distinguished colleagues, the additional prayer is that we should urge the Committee of Vice Chancellors to allow Nigerian students arriving from war-torn countries to be admitted to complete their various studies. Those who are in support of the additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes. Any further additional prayer? No. This is Senator Zam.
Additional prayer. Yes. Additional prayer, sir. Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues, I am Dr. Titus Zam. My additional prayer would be that the vice chancellors of the receiving universities in Nigeria should insist that the returning students overseas have evidence of qualification before they are given admission, because some of these foreign students do not meet our internal requirements before they go abroad.
Any seconder? No. Let me thank the civil senator Oladere for this motion. And you can see that it's a very popular one, and it has elicited comments from all colleagues. And I want to thank you for all your contributions, and pray that this the prayers so enunciated here will be adhered to by the MDCN as well as the various vice chancellors of universities in order to ameliorate the sufferings of our children, which, of course, their plight is not due to their own fault, but due to insecurity and war in the various countries complained of. Thank you so much for this, and thank you, distinguished brothers, for your contributions. Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Senator Mbigi. Senator Sani Musa, approach the chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Mpigi Barinada, I represent the people of Rivers Southeast Senatorial District. Mr. President, I stand to move under Order 42, and if by the permission of Mr. President, can I read, please?
Yeah, please read.
A senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in details to the President of the Senate when he leaves to make it his sought. Mr. President of the Senate, if I'm permitted, can I move to make my personal explanation based on Order 42, Mr. President?
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Mbigi actually approached me that he was going to make a personal explanation. Is it the view of the Senate that he be allowed to do so? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Go ahead.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my personal explanation has to do with my Thanksgiving service, which has to do with the thunderous support I received from the leadership of the Senate, ranging from the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, the leader of the Senate, the minority caucus, and other principal officers and other distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, on the 17th day of February, I had my Thanksgiving in my local community, my village. But despite the interior nature of the community, the bad road and the hazard on the road, Mr. President, you led a team of over 42 senators to that Thanksgiving. Mr. President, on behalf of myself, my family, and my constituents, We want to sincerely thank the Senate for this all-important support you gave to us. Mr. President, sincerely from the bottom of our heart, we want to say thank you for this visit to Ogoniland. Mr. President, that visit also occurred, most of the senators, to see the road they have appropriated money for, the East-West Road, and the ongoing of how the construction is going. You also passed through the refinery, you passed through the petrochemical, you also passed through the oil and gas free zone to prove that the senatorial district where I represent actually breathes in a lot of goodies to this country. Mr. President, I so move. Thank you for allowing me to make this explanation, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, very self-explanatory, and we must once again congratulate distinguished Senator Barinada Mbigi for moving the entire Senate to Ogoniland and to Port Harcourt for 3 days. Very unprecedented, very uncommon. So on a weekend, 3 days on a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You really tried. 3 days. So congratulations. Once again, it was a wonderful occasion. And it's a good thing for us to remain grateful to God for having for life and for protection and promotion. Congratulations once again to you and your family. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Federal Medical Center Act Amendment Bill 2024 HB 91. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2024, HB 91, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Medical Center Act Amendment Bill 2024, HB 91, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the second business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission Bill 2024 HB 471. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission Bill 2024, HB 471, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission Repeal and Enactment Bill 2024, HB 471, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Nwoko Ned Munir on the Firearm Act Amendment Bill 2024, SB 346. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Firearm Act Amendment Bill 2024, SB 346, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Firearms Act Amendment Bill 2024, SB 346, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ndubueze Patrick Chiwuba on the National Center for Cancer Research and Treatment Establishment Bill 2024, SB 347. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Center for Cancer Research and Treatment Establishment Bill 2024, SB 347, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, National Center for Cancer Research and Treatment Establishment Bill 2024, SB 347, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Musa Muhammad Sani on the Foreign Exchange Control and Monitoring Act, CAP F34, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2024, SB 353. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Foreign Exchange Control and Monitoring Act, CAP F34 LFN, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2024, SB 353, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Foreign Exchange Control and Monitoring Act, CAP F34 LFN, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2024, SB 358, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, I am well guided on the first order of the day as stated on the order paper, which ought to have been preceded by a closed session to enable distinguished senators discuss very well on this. In view of the fact that that couldn't happen today, Mr. President, may I move that the first order of the day be stood down for another legislative day, and then we'll move to the second order of the day as the first order. I so move, Mr. President.
Distinguished Abamoro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second a motion moved by the Senate leader that the first order of the day on the order paper should be stood down for the next legislative day to allow for a closer consultation by the Senate. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded. Those who are in support of the motion say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I don't know.